Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone that's here in person and everyone that's online to the special call for the Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, March 24th, 2026, 5:30. Tonight is going to be a discussion on land use. And at this time, I would like Mr. Todd Thomas to come up and present to the board.
Can I sit in James's seat?
Absolutely. Until he gets here. He's on his way. On his way.
That's a,
We have a table they can sit at?
yeah.
Yeah, well,
Mike? Got it. Okay.
This time I've been asked to give some explanation to the land use program in Northumberland County. And I have given the board of supervisors each a report on Northumberland County's current rates, Westmoreland County's current rates, Lancaster County's current rates, and Richmond County's current rates. And as you know, that these are based on the year in which they had a reassessment. So whatever the SLEAC figures were during that year, if they so took the suggested amounts, then that's the figures that they used. Northumberland and Westmoreland have always been in line and never really changed their assessment rates. We currently have $800 per an acre on agricultural, open space, and horticulture. $500 per an acre on forestry. Westmoreland County, like I say, has the same $800 on all three, and then has $500 per acre on forestry. Lancaster County never adopted forestry land until 2024 when they done the reassessment last time. They did not have land use at that point up until then. So they took the 2024 figures. They already had not cropland free section. They had $167 per an acre forestry. Richmond County, which is the highest of all of them, at $2,700 per acre on agriculture, horticulture, and open space, $1,000 per an acre on forestry, which I think was probably over and above what the recommendation take. You'll see in front of you, there's one at the top that says 126 forest land use value. Give you all quite a few. He's got, yeah, there's one little long. My God, flash.
it's getting enough, Mike.
Give me your back here. Okay, the one that has the 2026 forest land use values. Y'all all have it in front of you. All right, you can look down there and you can see many values that are suggested. Like I was saying at the previous Board of Supervisors meeting back a few months ago. They have like 7 or 8 different numbers going across that sheet, anywhere from fair to non-productive land, okay? Some of the non-productive land is only $100, $75 per an acre, okay? But if you look down in all the dollars per an acre, even the excellent in most of these counties, you won't see anything that is even close to 500 on half of. Okay, and that's what we currently have. And Lancaster County, this is for 2026. It's saying that Lancaster County's suggested values is 713. Northumberland County is saying it's $607 for the good. Okay, we have 500 now. Okay, A lot of the reasons why you're going to see the timber, like I said in the previous meeting, is that timber was one of those things that easily sold because we had a major plant in King Fayette. Okay, there was competing process on the sale of the timber. Now, with the timber, close as you get on Tappahannock, right on up to Miller's Tavern, those areas, they're not bidding as much. They don't have competition. So you're going to see that later on, you're going to see those figures going down. Okay. All right. So you want to look at Richmond County, you can see good is 601. Okay. So they got $1,000 is what they have on there currently. And then the other one was Lancaster County. And that is 605 good. Okay. So we're all pretty much in line, all those counties. Okay, so land use for forest land is pretty much on. We've been only looking, if we went to $600, we've been probably only looking at 51 cents per an acre. Now the next sheet I want you to look at is the State Land Evaluation Advisory Council 2026 suggested dollar per an acre assessment ranges for qualifying open space land under the use value tax assessment. This is golf course. We don't have many of them, so it's not going to make a lot of difference as far as taxes. Okay, but if you look down at Northumberland County, it's $700 to $1,200 per an acre. Okay. The next sheet I'd like to take a look at is estimated use values of agricultural land by jurisdiction. This is where you look at it, and it is some differences. But there again, if you look across the whole state of Virginia, I question whether these figures are correct for some of these jurisdictions. And Northumberland happens to be one of them. Because you've got areas here in the average that are $200, $300, $400, $500. They pay $50 per year rent in farmland. And here it's $89 the average. Cost of planting, cost of fuel, cost of chemicals, all those things that have contributed to, the farmer not making as much profit. He has to farm more land to be able to turn around and to get the profit that he needs. Combines $500,000, farm machinery in general, tractors $200,000, $300,000, $400,000. So you're looking at a couple $1 million. So we don't see farmers going into the business unless family has put them in that position that they can do so. So if you look at Northumberland County on that list I just give y'all, we're looking at cropland, average cropland. We're looking here at 3270 without risk. And let me get back on this page, 3270 and 3110 with risk. In other words, wetlands and property that might get drowned out and those type of things. And it explains you on the back page of that report, it explains to you all those different variances. But as you can see, they have a category, ag land category 8, that, is barely 170, 340, $40, $70, and all those low amounts. So, that's why we stuck with the $800. We have to have something that our farmers can deal with and make a profit, because we don't want to see any less of them in this county. All right, let's see. This here is the equalized cropland and pasture land use value. You have that sheet in front of you? And this is based on the capitalized cash rental rates method for the tax year 2026. Okay, you come on down to Northumberland County, and you will see that value per an acre for cropland is $1,061. Okay.
$1,300, right?
Let me see, make sure I got the right one. Is that what it is? Okay. I was probably looking at one. Yeah, $1,300. Excuse me. So that kind of covers what, and of course, there's a whole lot more there to look at, and I don't think that you're going to make no decisions tonight, but I don't see a lot of change in the forestry at all. And I don't see that the farming, as far as the farmland is such, if it gets changed, it shouldn't be changed a whole lot. And I'm going to tell you the reasons why I think that. And then they addressed some of the questions that I had. I got 15 questions, and I put my computer program to work. And he's pretty much solved it all, except for some of the things I won't be able to answer for the 2026 figures on the table. And shouldn't be any problem once I know what the tax rate's going to be. Once it's set by the Board of Supervisors, so I shouldn't have any problem with that. Because the computer pretty much, has everything I need, and it just has to be retrieved. But anyway, I would like to say that the farmers are facing a lot of uncertainty with fuel costs, cost of farm machinery, land rent, cost of fertilizer, lime, and chemicals. There were many farmers in the area just 30 years ago, but as the time has been erased, the population of the farmers has decreased. The cost has made it so that you have to be big in order to make it. Profits margins are way down. We as a county as a whole and the Board of Supervisors need to support them. Okay? And that's my position. I want to address the questions that I had that Mr. Fisher had given me. And it was like 15 different questions, and I'm going to answer as many as I can. I had the computer program, like I say, pulled everything that I couldn't get a hold of. But anyway, we come up with the answers. How many acres of land are currently, through tax year 2025, enrolled in the land use program in Northumberland County? And it happens to be 57,337 and 0244. Okay, so 57,337 and a little bit over. When was the last time the land use value of forest acres were adjusted to reflect revised Northumberland County-wide appraisals? They have never been adjusted. They've always been at the 800 and the 500. How many property owners are granted land use values for agricultural property? 674. How many parcels are active participants of land use rates for agricultural property? 936. What is the total acreage of agricultural crop land use affected properties? 22,660 acres. Okay. How many property owners are granted land use values for forestry property? 626. How many parcels are active participants of land use rates for forestry property? 931. What is the total acreage of forestry land use affected properties? 18,161. How many property owners are granted land use values for horticulture? I only have one. How many parcels of active participant of land use rates for horticulture? 1. What is the total acreage? Horticultural land use affected properties, 6 acres, which is grapes. How many property owners are granted land use values for open space property? 5. How many parcels are active parcels of land use rates for open space? 5. What is the total acreage for open affected properties? 180.7050. Are any of the participants that have applied for land use rates non-Northumberland residents, homeless? I don't know what that means, but I did the figures. 385 is what the total is, and the acreage for agriculture is 7,791 acres and 0.8495. And then forestry is $14,484. Okay, well, acres, no, that's acres. 9,058. So 14,484.9058. All right. Since LEAC annually suggests new rates, should Northumberland consider automatic annual modifications to land use values? Northumberland County would only suggest rate changes every 6 years if any change is suggested. I don't suggest any changes. Should land use ordinance be changed to reflect automatic adjustment of use rates based on reappraisal percentage of increase or decrease every 6 years? It's not in the code. What is the projected amount of decrease of tax income to the county due to the land use? I pulled 2025, and it was $1,193,158.56. I also pulled 2024 that I weren't asked to, but because of the tax rate increase, it increased quite a bit, so I thought I should show it. It was 2024, it was $841,32. Okay. As commission revenue, do you feel that if A1 track is used for another application, crop or production or forestry, do you feel that land use rates should still apply? And as long as the acreage is sufficient enough, it should. What about the rollback tax issues due to changes in use? The taxpayer has 60 days to notify us of any change in the use of that property. A lot of times they will sell, and we have in place where we will see that the acreage change. At the end of the year, we do an acreage report, okay? And so we can see if someone sold a little piece off or whatever of their acreage, and we'll do a partial rollback as long as they still have enough acreage to satisfy the entire parcel to stay in land use. Pursuant to Virginia Code 58-1, 3242-1, Forestry Sustainability Fund, a reimbursement to the county may be made if filed by November 30th each year. Is this program being utilized? And if so, what reimbursements have been received from the State of the Forestry Division for Northumberland County? We have received, and I applied for the grant, and 2 grants. We received $15,739, and $2,530 has been spent on the project at Hampton Hall Bridge. Okay, so I have a balance of $13,209 that this board has got to turn around and decide what they want to do with that money, whether it's the school playground or whether it's the park in Calab. Okay, based on the 2025 reassessment, what is the total value within the county? We didn't have an assessment for 2025, and I don't have the 2026 figures, so I don't know whether that question was addressed correctly or not. But we will have the figures for the 2026 soon, so the board can do their calculations on the new tax rate. What is the current 2026 average property value of the 19,032 parcels within Northumberland County? And I've done the math, it was $268,663, but I don't know what that really actually means as far as in reality to the land use. What percentage of land use assessment value is included within the assessment computations to determine the total new assessment for the entire county? The fair market value minus the deferred amount of taxes, okay? Is the rule of thumb value of 1 cent per 100 property value still yielding about 280 tax revenue? It is currently, but when the new tax rate is set, that is possibility that that will change quite a bit, because we've had quite a bit of increase in average, for this reassessment. So the tax rate should be much lower than what it currently is. All right, pursuant to the county ordinance 132-23, use value and fair market value. The use value and fair market value of any qualifying property shall be placed on the land book before delivery to the treasurer. The treasurer gets it electronically. I give a total page, which includes the land use, the deferral, so she collects the bottom line. The land book is recorded in the clerk's office, and the land book is recorded in the Commissioner of Revenue's office, located on the front hall of the courthouse to the left. Is the information on the website? The website used to carry the land book, but when they turned around, we went to Concise and we converted all the information, then the Concise system doesn't have the land book on the site itself. That's something that I don't think many counties in the counties I've reviewed put the land use figures, except if they do a land book on the website. Within the land record section, land segment section, there are frequently a series of numbers after the initial segment description. Is there a publicly available chart? And there is. And it will give examples for the assessor, and this is strictly the assessment tools that are used with the assessor to place segments on the land, if it's waterfront, whether it's road frontage involved, and you have certain codes that go behind it, but that is certainly public information, and we can get that for whoever who wants it. But you might have swamp and wetlands and things like that he wants to code, and he might not put, much of a value on it because swamp is not worth a whole lot. But if a piece of property has road frontage or has water frontage, then it's worth a whole lot more money. So, he might have 50 acres, farmland, not on the water. He might have assessed for $4,500 an acre. But he might have some poor that's back in the woods somewhere that don't have no but a right of way to get to it. He might not want to put $2,000 an acre or $2,500. So that's how you break it up into segments. It's much more fair than even it's ever been as far as that's concerned. And that's how he arrives at the fair market value of the property based on that and the sales of property. But anyway, that answers these questions, all 15 of them, to the most part, until I get another reassessment figure. I know that it's 74 cents now, and I know that it's going to reduce quite a bit and should. So, and I think most people will be pleased at the end of the day.
Board members, y'all have any questions for Mr. Thomas?
I want to say thank you, Todd. This whole meeting is to be an educational process for us, and I think you've done a good job starting that.
Well, it's let me just tell you, taxes are something in these rural counties all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. I just got through with taking care of some audits from the state compensation board for 21 counties and localities, and I got to talk to all of them in the process, and they all having troubles, and when we talk tax relief and we talk about our areas and our farmers in this area, they keep everything, neat. And we don't have a situation where one farmer's taking up too much land, the farm that he can't take care of what he does have. And, I have to support. I was born and raised in a farm community. And I saw, and Jimmy Brand saw, him and I worked side by side right in the tomato fields. And today we don't have any of that, and I wish we did. And but it's a lot of good things in this county going on. And in emergency services, we need a lot of help from emergency services, and all those things take money. And we got to have services. We got a lot of retirees in this county, and we got to take care of them. So, this whole land use thing is about our surroundings, and I just think it's a positive thing to have land use in place to help the citizens of the entire county. And I know some people don't like to think they're going to have an increase in their taxes, but I think at the end of the day, they'll be satisfied once this board sets a new tax rate.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do at this time, we're going to open this up for some public comment. Normally, we give 4 minutes, but due to the topic, we're going to allow 15. But we also ask that you are considerate of others as they speak. Please take in consideration if you're here representing a family farm and it's more than one person that works for that same farm, please try to have one speaker. Take that in consideration. And like I said, we're here to be educated on this. And at this time, Mr. Penny, you want to come up and present?
Good evening. My name is Jim Penny, and I live in the Heathsville area. I relocated to Northumberland County about 10 years ago after retirement. I am not an attorney, but I try to research, read, and comprehend items that attract my attention that concern the county. I try to make items that appear inequitable to me, public, so as to inspire interest. The hope is to create as equitable a community as possible for all the county's residents. The topic of land use is one that has not received a lot of notoriety since its inception. I anticipate that those participating within the program do not desire any changes. To those folks, I understand. But when you consider that since its inception, between all the building improvements and reappraisals of property over the past 30 plus years, resulting in the total countywide property values increasing 399.945%. Change is inevitable. Historical fact. Total countywide property value as of 1993, when this was created, was $609,588,351. As of fiscal year FY 2020, the total property our county property value was $3,047,609,200. So there's your 399%. Currently, I'm not aware of the 2026 total county property value after last year's reassessment, though I suspect it has increased substantially. Thus, I think the issue of land use needs to be addressed and considered. The land use ordinance is not tough to understand, but it is thought to be very complicated. One of the reasons is the lack of attention, publicity given to it since its inception in 1994. It can be located on the Northumberland County website under County Ordinances and search for Special Assessment for Land Preservation. In a nutshell, here's my understanding of the problem with history as to why it's on the books and must be addressed. In 1974, Virginia passed legislation to enable, not compel, localities to provide tax relief to landowners in order to preserve agricultural, horticultural, forestry, and/or open space lands with the explicit purpose that the public would benefit from its preservation. Shortly thereafter, the Virginia legislature created the State Land Evaluation Advisory Council, SELAC. It is the job of the Advisory Council to annually suggest to each locality using the Special Assessed Land Preservation Program current use values for the following tax year. SELAC is very thorough in its suggested rate calculations. They annually produce for each participating municipality a trifold brochure with the land use rates they suggest. Please notice I've mentioned suggest numerous times. Why? It is the responsibility of the county management, the Board of Supervisors, lost my space here, Board of Supervisors, to set the applicable land use rates for the coming year, and the SELAC values are suggestions, not mandates. At present, a mere 62.5% of the 95 counties within the Commonwealth have a program of this nature. Nearby, King and Queen, Charles City, Matthews, and Surrey, all with waterfront, do not have land use assessment ordinances per SELAC. Informatively, as you said, Richmond County land use rates are currently $2,700 for agriculture and $1,000 for forestry. In October of 1993, the Northumberland County Board of Supervisors approved the Planning Commission proposed ordinance and was implemented January 1st, 1994. County ordinance states the use value and fair market value of any qualifying property shall be placed on the land book before delivery to the treasurer, and the tax for the next succeeding year shall be extended from the use value. At that time, the use value for ag purposes was set at 800 acre and 500 for forestry. There's been no change that's been identified to these use values since inception. You confirm that. The use value is different from the assessed value, which is revised every 6 years for all 19,032 property parcels within Northumberland County, of which 1,217 parcels, 6.9%, participate in the land use program. You stated that at the January 12th meeting. How is the program administered? Property parcel owner may file an application with the tax commissioner and pay a $20 fee. It is the responsibility of the tax commissioner's office to review said application to confirm that the parcel meets all the requirements of the program, from acreage to type of crop being used. Once completed, a use value is assigned and recorded for the following tax year. Parcel size minimum limitations are 5 acres for ag and horticultural use, 20 acres for forest. These minimum acreages always apply to that acreage that is exclusive of any lot or equivalent thereon which a main residence is located. For brevity, not all the requirements are listed herein. There are considerable penalties for the parcel owner not reporting change in use for parcels within the program. All of this is detailed in a 180-page manner from CLAC that is downloadable from their website. Who pays for the program and what is the cost covered by the ordinance? Whereas 6.9% of the county receives a substantial discount on property taxes, this reduction is made up by an increase to the tax rate, currently 74 cents per $100 of appraised value, of 4 cents. A 4 cent for conservation reported in January at the January 12th meeting by the tax commissioner. Important note to clarify, the reduced land use values deduct from the total appraised value of the county, resulting in the 4 cent value to offset the loss in revenue. Current rule of thumb to calculate revenue to the county treasurer is 1 cent per 280,000 of tax revenue. Thus, 4 cents times 280,000 produces $1,120,000 that compensates for the land rate used. Analysis. Where is the equality and equity for the rest? 93.1% of the county's parcels owners. Take into consideration that a non-participating parcel owner whose assessed value is, say, $5,000 an acre and has 20 forested acres. For this example, we use the current rate at 0.74 cents per $100 parcel value, either assessed or land use value. Thus, 20 acres times 5,000 at assessed value per acre is $100,000. Divided by 100 equals 1,000 times 0.74, $740. Across the property line, that parcel is again 20 acres forested, and the owner participates in the program, and his land use rate is merely 500 an acre. Thus, 20 acres times 500 land use value equals 10,000 divided by 100 equals $100 times 0.74, $74 tax due. I have to ask the question, wouldn't you be somewhat upset with somebody with the same acreage paying 10% of the tax that you're paying with no recourse? This is occurring across the county with 1,217 parcels, regardless of forestry, agriculture, or even open space. Frankly, this is quite unfair to those non-participant owners, as nothing has been done to the land use rates for 30 years. The Board of Supervisors has essentially 3 choices. Increase the land use rates to something closer to the surrounding assessed property values. CLAC values, you've got them, and he's delivered them to you as well. 3,110 for with risk, 3,270 without risk, forest 416 to 607 variance. Keep in mind these are suggested values. After 32 years of combined inflation, it is thought that justification for change is fully warranted. Item number 2, modify the ordinance to incorporate the requirement for annual reviews by the Planning Commission and subsequently submit an annual report to the BOS by the end of October. There are in excess of 200 plus federal and state local programs that do not require county administration or cost coverage to the county for farmers, forestry parcel owners. Evaluate the land use rates to determine if the ordinance remains in the best interest of the county and its taxpayers. As part of their review, determine what, if any, increase, decrease would have on the current 4 cents tax rate and return the differential back to the county taxpayers. Do nothing, and the rest of us in the county continue to foot the $1,120,000 bill. This will be to the detriment of 93% of the county. And gentlemen, I close, and my final statement is elections do have consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, help me a little more organized, ladies and gentlemen. How many people here want to speak? Okay, here's what we're going to do to be a little more organized. We're going to start on this side, the gentleman with white beard. And once we do, you come up, Mr. Gall, and you're next, and we go to this side. So come on up, state your name and address.
Wrote this down, so I'll be brief. My name is George Wright. I'm a resident of this county. I'm familiar with the appraisal methodologies, the way they come up with the cost of the value of the appraised value of your land. I am not used to the way they assess properties. But what I can tell you is that the assessed value where I've been is typically lower than the appraised value. That is not the current case in this county. So as an old retired person, and I'm every bit as old as I look, and some days I feel even older. But my family's got 300 years of redneck in our blood, and I was born and raised here. So the formula I'm looking for is, how did they come up with these appraised rates? All I want is a precise method, because this is good math. This is math that's startling. If my property, I didn't fix any fences, I didn't paint my house, I seldom mowed the grass last year because I had a medical problem. But yet my assessment went up dramatically, and I can understand these numbers that people are talking about when they're talking big numbers. I'm a very small retired farmer. And the only reason I'm a farmer is because I grow my own food. I don't sell anything, I give it away. But I love this land, I love this county. And when we talk, we say, you know what? I'm concerned about my children's future. My friends and neighbors, I tell you what, if these assessment rates stay in place, our children don't have a present. And I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Gall.
Thank you all for the opportunity to come and speak to you all. My name is Wyatt Garland. I am not a lawyer. I am not a public speaker. But I can tell you, after 34 years of over 5 hours a day talking about the history and the heritage of Northumberland County, the Northern Neck, and the state of Virginia, my voice is gone. So I'm not going to keep you up for 15 minutes. As you see, my voice is cracking already. I cannot believe I'm here tonight talking to my local representatives about common sense. I have several questions which you all already know the answer to. Let's say for 5 years. In 5 years, has the Sheriff's Department ever been called out to a land use property? For 5 years, has emergency services been called out to a land use property? Probably very seldom, little or none. Land use property has little or no cost to the county. My cows don't go to school. And very, very, very seldom do they break the law. Hence, they don't cost the county a whole lot. If land use property is costing the county nothing, and the landowner still is paying taxes on that property, county folks, that's a deal. The county's making money with no expenses at all. And they want to get rid of it. So why place the burden on small and family farms? That does not make common sense. I am not certain what long-term benefits eliminating or restricting the land use classification would provide to the county, other than serving as a starting point towards losing the open expanses of our farmland and the rural character that defines Northumberland County. Increased tax burdens inevitably pressure landowners to sell. Once the farmland is converted to residential development or were solar, the charge or the change is essentially permanent. Along with that change comes greater demand for public services, schools, infrastructure, and public safety, eliminating increasing costs for the county rather than reducing them. Northumberland County's rural landscape is not only an economic asset, but it is a cultural and historical one. The preservation of working farms supports local food production, environmental stewardship, and the character that attracts residents and visitors alike. And as for the reassessment, I know this is not a part of it, but while I'm here, the reassessment has gone up so much. Have you ever thought about, now I know you can lower the rate, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but have you ever thought about the retired folks who live here, the old folks that live here, the poor farmer that lives here? Have you thought about his income trying to keep up with that reassessment and the new taxes? That's something to think about right there. The residents of Northumberland County cannot keep up income with what we are being taxed on. But I respectfully ask that you carefully consider the long-term implications of altering the land use tax classification and continue to support the farmers who help sustain the economic and rural foundations of our county. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else on this side? Bryant, come up.
This is the first. I'm Mike Bryan. I'm in District 1. And I want to come to y'all as a property owner. I am a farmer. But a lot of this land we're talking about has been generations in families. And it's not about trying to tax it or whatever. It's about trying to keep it. And not everybody, and I chose to stay here and raise a family here, and I got two more generations coming behind me. And we really and truly need to think about that. And I tell y'all right now, you can ride anywhere in the state of Virginia. And when you talk about stewards of the land, the farmers right here in Northumberland County are absolutely some of the best stewards of the land. And I'm not going to go on, but if we want to do something for this county, we need to find a way to keep revenue in this county, because I would like to know some numbers of how much revenue is going elsewhere. And that is hurting us way more than putting another burden on people that are not retired here and have been here all their life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else on this side? If not, let's switch to the next side. Let's start up here at the front, please. Ms. Johnson.
What that gentleman said about the economics of Northumberland County, it is a fact. We are actually in a trade deficit with everywhere around us. I really don't want to take up too terribly much time, but there's some numbers that have been rattling around my head, and I'm not as good as Ms. Pika, but I can do some pretty good numbers. If you have an acre whose value for the purposes of taxation is $800, I can tell you that under the last assessment, that same acre of non-productive land that I own is taxed at $65,000. That means that the guy that's got the farmland in the program, he's paying 1.2% of the taxes that I pay. And that's all over the place in District 5. Just saying. Now, I don't want to cause the farmers to not be able to function. At the same time, I don't want to indemnify them against tax increases because the rest of us got them. We do. We need more jobs. We need more businesses. I heard somebody else talking earlier about how we're going to do that with everything being residential. Can you imagine what we would have to do, what hoops we would have to go through to come up with a second employer the size of Omega? So this problem is much bigger. What I anticipate, and I think is best for everybody, because appearances aren't taxable, but they do have an impact. If we just readjust to the recommended values, I think the people of Northumberland County would appreciate it a lot more than doing nothing. And with that, I'll leave you all alone.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else on the second row? Okay, let's go to the third row. Anyone on the third row like to speak? All right, fourth row.
Evening, gentlemen. Thank y'all. I have made a few bullet notes here. I don't know if I'm gonna get through them, but I'm David Fisher, by the way.
Okay,
long-term resident or life-term long resident, fisherman, a farmer, and a proud member of the community. I'm happy to be here and where I come from. And people like Mr. Garland that got up and spoke, I wish I could speak half as eloquently as he did. Even though he didn't think he did an excellent job of saying pretty much everything that I was thinking. So I'm gonna try not to repeat myself, but here we are. Things are going to change, whether we like it or not. And I'm thankful that we have folks like right now, like Todd Thomas, who sat up here and worked hard on all these numbers that lost me very quickly. As hard as I tried to follow him, he lost me. But, I did hear the most important part was that he, in parts I already knew, but he has a farming background. And even though he is trying to understand the farmers, we change so fast that even he's lost touch when he says a combine is $500,000. It's not. We don't have them, but there are corn planters in the community that cost $500,000. And combines, they're just under $1 million for a big one. Before you buy the headers and the carts to go with it, needless to say, I don't look like a millionaire, but we farm like one, and if we make a slip, we're going under. Our profit margins are very, very small. Landowners here, it's not just going to affect farmers, and I appreciate that that we're looking at the farmers, but I feel like the reason we're here is because this is going to affect people for the future, and not just for us today. If the county needs more money, the county has to look within. Speaking as a farmer and just a person who runs two businesses, I have to work a budget. I spend more than I take in, I'm not going to make it. Nobody's going to come along and help me. We could throw more money at a problem, but until we fix the problem, we still have a problem. Got a hole in the boat, you're going down, bigger pump ain't going to help it. You don't plug the hole, you're still sinking. So, common sense approach here is back to I do appreciate that we're trying to reassess, and we're going to look at different rates from these new assessments, and we're looking to protect our community. Well, where am I going with that? Gosh, how do we get there in fairness to when you folks come up and say, well, it's not fair to me because I'm paying too much more than these other folks. And, you really have to look at it like, well, was it land use when you bought your property? Who does that fall on? And if we change it to satisfy a few people that are upset because their values have gone up, after we throw more money at it for a little while, what's going to happen? Landowners that we rent from, they're going to have to go up to a point that we can't afford to farm it. So maybe you lose the farmers. That may not be a big deal to everyone, but once the farmers are gone, it's not just about the farmers, it's about our community that we all grew up in. What brought people here to buy those houses that they're upset about for the high rate? Was it the rural atmosphere and the pristine shorelines, the beautiful area that we have that we've worked hard to maintain, and the people that were here before us, the folks that sat in these seats in the courtroom across the road, that sat and tried to make good decisions to protect the future of our community? We're losing that, because when you lose your farmers and your watermen and the folks that have been good stewards of our land to keep the area rural, you end up with landowners who can't afford to pay taxes. So it's either solar panels or development. Either way, it's gone. And it won't just be, you have a tough decision, but it's not just a decision that you're making to satisfy the folks in this room tonight. It's the decision that you're leaving your legacy of your grandchildren. Do you want this area to be an area that they can no longer afford to live in? Or will it turn it into an area that just no longer has room for the people that made it or helped to keep it what it is? I'm just afraid that's where we're going if we change. And regardless of how small that change is, even if, rates are pretty close, and I heard Mr. Thomas say it wasn't going to make a whole lot of difference between forestry land and such. The problem with that is we have somebody right now that's looking out for our local people, but will we in the future? So once you open that door and you make that change is there. The folks that come along next, it's so much easier for them just to up the rate and make the change without having what we have here tonight, no opportunity. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I'm Lake Coward and landowner in Northumberland County, a longtime resident of the county. And I think that land use in this county and many counties has allowed people to live in rural areas without being worried about being overgrown by development. Certainly waterfront land, if it was taxed and not taxed at land use values, much more of it in this county would be developed. We depend on much of our livelihood from the oyster industry. And the Cone River, there are two big tracts of land right now, more than two, at least three big tracts of land on that river that are undeveloped. I dare say if in fact they were taxed at the full rate, they would be developed. Some of them certainly would be. And we would lose that land to the pristine waters that we have, to more residents coming in the county. And as Mr. Garland said earlier, this county would be providing services for those people, and the rates would go up. I think the numbers I've heard, maybe $1.2 million on a $49 million budget. You're looking at about 2.5%. And is it worth 2.5% to have land use in place to keep this area from growing exponentially in order to have what we have now versus what might we have if in fact it were done away with? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Downing.
Hello, Michael Downing, Northumberland County, Plattsburgh, not a public speaker, especially not as well as Mr. Garland. So he'd probably be proud to be standing up here, though. Most of you know me. I'm a large farmer, both in acreage and overall stature. And I will agree with Mr. Garland in that my farm fields very rarely need emergency services, whether it's a rescue squad. Rarely. I do need the fire department, sadly, more often than I like. But I will disagree with Mr. Thomas on one thing. He said people will be satisfied when the new tax rates come out, or he thought people would be satisfied, and people are never satisfied with the tax rates. So we know that's probably not right. I think raising the rates on us would be detrimental. We probably make less money per acre than we did in the 90s when this land use came in. Well, I know we do. And it's harder every year to make a living. And increase taxes. I don't want to sell my property. I don't want my daughters. I have 2 daughters. I don't want them to sell it off and turn this into a giant subdivision. If they would like to turn Northumberland County into a retirement community or a vacation home place, then maybe should tax it as such. These people coming from out of town, maybe they should pay more taxes on new home sales. Maybe they should pay more taxes on their land rent if they're out of town using it for a vacation home. Maybe that'd be a way to get some extra revenue. Completely opposite with what Mr. Penny would like, but still, that's about all I got to say.
Thank you. Okay, next row. Judge McKinney, how you doing, sir?
Good. Todd and I are the only people who wore ties, I just point out. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there was a lot of things I was going to say, but Mr. Fisher took a lot of it. I want to, first of all, thank you all for having this discussion. You know, I'm a lifelong resident in Northumberland County. I was born at Dr. Booker's office in Lotsburg, and I didn't even leave the county to be born. You know, stayed right here. You all have responsibilities, and I know that a good deal of your time is spent on budgeting issues and tax rates, but you have responsibilities both by the code and by the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia to undertake a number of other responsibilities. Among those is to develop a vision for what our county should be, how it should appear, how its lands may be used, and what is the most beneficial to its citizens and its economy. Many years ago, decisions were made to try to protect the rural character of this county and to ensure that our traditional industries, farming, fishing, and forestry, would be able to sustain themselves and to support the residents of this county. Each of those farmers who have spoken employ numerous people. They are, in many ways, the economic engine of this county, along with Lakey Coward and the seafood industry. That's what drives this county. As development occurs, we have to be mindful that not only are we reducing the available farmland and the benefits that come to us, and you know, maybe their financial benefits don't look equal, but what do each of us benefit from? Don't we all benefit from living in this beautiful community? Look out across the field now and see the buds starting to come out on the trees on the backside of a field, or as the crops are planted, to enjoy seeing them grow, and then to see the harvest as we move toward midsummer and then into the fall. The other benefit that we know exists is that the upland use affects the waterways and the fisheries that we depend on. We know that from almost 40 years of experience from the Chesapeake Bay Act. Water quality in the Chesapeake Bay has dramatically improved as we have attempted to control upland use. If we allow additional development because people can no longer sustain what have been historic family farms, we're going to see additional pressure placed on the waterways upon which the values that this property has is so dependent. No one wants to live on a dead or dying body of water. We have to be careful about how we manage the upland part, the land itself, to ensure that the fisheries are available to us. Now, I'm no Wyatt Garland, but I do believe that being here is the greatest blessing of my life, outside of my wife and family. The opportunity to live in this county and to enjoy the bounty that we have. Money cannot be all that drives us. Do we want our future to be comparable in a way that we share these beauties, this nature, with those that come after us? I hope the answer to that is yes, that we don't trade it for a decision today. I know that there's a statute, everybody's worried about the tax rate. There's a statute that limits the amount of increase that can occur. So, there's much speculation about what those rates are going to be, but there are caps. I hope that the board has shared that with people as a reassurance that they're going to have to look at. This is not a decision for 2026. This is a decision for 2056 and 2106. The use of our land will determine the values that we represent. It determines what our community looks like and the future that we have. And I would encourage you all, I don't know what the proper rate is, but I would encourage you to look very closely at any decision that may affect our farming community and our waterman community. And I would remind you that these are very difficult times. I'm not a farmer, and God knows I don't understand how these guys can continue to push themselves in the way that they do. But I know it's a love of the land for many of them, Mr. Downing and Fishers and Mr. Garland and others. It's their family story. It's their heritage. And we know, looking around, markets are difficult right now for farmers. There may be a difficulty in getting fertilizer for farmers, particularly this year. You heard Mr. Fisher talk about what the cost of equipment is. And yet, look at the employees that each of these farmers have. Look at the employees Lakey Coward has. I know Omega is the biggest employer here, but I can tell you if Lakey Coward goes out of business, there's a whole lot of people unemployed. If Mr. Fisher stops farming and just runs fishing trips, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are laid off. And we don't have other jobs to absorb them. So I would encourage you to be very cautious in making a decision about this. I love this county and I've devoted my life to its service. And I'm very proud to have done that. My hope is that my children will see this county value the same traditional industries that have been a part of our history since the 1600s: farming, fishing, and forestry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else in the back would like to speak? Okay, do we have anyone online that would like to speak? No one? Okay, well, we will close the public comment part of this.
Could I,
I'm sorry.
say something?
Yep.
My name's Josh Bryant. I farm with my dad. First off, I just turned 31. I've been in Northumberland County. Thanks to my education at Virginia Tech, I've been able to be very fortunate to see many parts of this country, and there's no place like home. I'm going to be here forever. I work in commercial agriculture. We do custom application and everything, and I kind of see both sides. Being a farmer, I'm going to look out for the farmer. Commercial application is not getting cheaper. Fertilizer is not getting cheaper. I don't want to say, and don't quote me on this, I think urea since December has gone up over 50% because of all the issues in the Western Hemisphere or over in the Middle East. I mean, and it's just crazy to see that people don't see how much farmers put in per acre. I don't have any numbers in front of me, but there's a whole lot of hidden aspects and a whole lot of hidden dollars that they pay that a lot of people don't see. And I look at it this way: everybody's got to eat, and food just don't show up at the grocery store. There's a whole lot that farmers do to clothe and feed the world. And I don't have any land of my own yet. That's a dream of mine. But making increases like this and doing, just trying to with the cost of living the way it is now, it's very hard, and it's almost unreal that I can't, I would love to own a piece of land. I just think it's so far out of touch for me at the moment, and it's sad to say that's my dream and be able to pass it on. But when you put the pencil to the paper, it's hard to do that or think that you can do that and be able to come home and sleep at night and be able to pay your bills. It's very hard. So that's all I have. And thank you.
Thank you. Still no one? Okay. Well, we're going to close the public comment portion of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know of anyone on this board that is going to vote to do away with land use. And if any of you disagree with me, please speak up. But I will not vote to do away with land use, and I don't think anyone else. We may have to look at some adjustments, but that's going to be done under Mr. Thomas's eye there, and make sure that what we do is right. I'm not saying we're going to do anything, but I just want you folks to know, and the ones online, that we're not going to get rid of land use. And I think that has upset a lot of people, and this county could not survive without the land use. We know that. But we may have to make adjustments. But
So how did the question arise? Somebody had to come up with the thought of doing away with it.
Not on this board.
While we're here.
that was a previous board member that asked to have it looked into. And, we owe it. If an issue is brought up and it's brought up for someone to look into it, we owe it to the citizens to look into it, to have discussions. And that's why we're having this meeting here tonight, was basically to educate us, to hear from Mr. Thomas, hear from the public, whether they agree with land use or not agree with land use. But it's our job to look into it, and it's our job to hear what the community has to say. Gentlemen, y'all have any comments?
I just have a couple comments. It was 37 years ago when I got out of college, was dating my wife, future wife, shouldn't say I was dating my wife, but she's from Baltimore, never been in the country. Picked her up, brought her here. We rode by Mr. Guy's farm right in Callio, and she looked over, she said, "I get it." I said, "What in the world are you talking about?" She says, "Amber waves of green." And it hit me all of a sudden, America the Beautiful and amber waves of green. And how lucky we are to live in a county that we see that. 75 to 80% of the people in this country never get to see that and see the beauty of what we have, whether it's sunflowers, whether it's our corn popping up in rows, and the beauty of it. And that drove home to me the thought of how special of a place, like Mr. McKinney said, that we live in, and we're blessed to live in, and how fortunate we are as individuals. And one other thing I have deep concerns about, if we take away land use or if we adjust land use, there's a lot of people now that are barely above the poverty rate. The only thing they have is their land that's been given through generations. I do not want to see that land taken away from those people for development. We all know, and I'll pull up the stats right here. Open land, for every dollar spent, there's only 36 cents the county spends on. For every house that a dollar rate is, it's $1.25. So we lose money every time a house is being put on this land through school system, through EMS. And I can't state how important of an issue this is for me. I do not want to see, we're blessed in Northumberland County, there's no solar farms. If this is pushed, you will see people coming here with requests for more solar farms. We're blessed to have the best farmers in the world, the best caretakers, the best landowners. And I appreciate every one of you that do it. And just want to say thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do we want to?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
may I speak one sentence on this board?
I'm good with the board. You good?
Sure.
I appreciate being here this evening. I'm Mason Brent. I live here in Eastville, right up the road. And for the edification of people that come before this board, I would like to suggest that we have a great deal of respect for our Board of Supervisors. And when we come to speak to them, we, people from Northumberland, don't end on idle threats. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you all for attending tonight. We'll be going into closed session.
We need a motion to adjourn.
We get a motion to go into closed session.
Okay. Just take a break.
Yes. Mr. Long, we'll take a break. All right. How you doing?
We just announced we'll take a break.
I think we'll take a 5-minute break.
Good job.
Convene and close meeting pursuant to Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2, 3711A1 for the discussion and consideration of personnel matters. Invited to attend the closed meeting as necessary are the county administrator and assistant county administrator, as they are deemed necessary and their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia FOIA Section 2.2, 3712F.
So moved. Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Right.
Motion that the Northumberland Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by roll call vote that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
So moved.
Have a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Long? Aye. Mr. Williams? Aye. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Brands, aye. Well, back in the open meeting.
All right. The first item we have is we need a motion to transfer Morgan Wilson to Finance Operations Specialist 1, effective April 1st, 2026, with a salary of $56,500.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Second motion is to change Mary Dotson's title to Finance Operations Specialist 2, effective April 1st, 2026.
Motion made. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Third item is a supplemental appropriation
to the county administrator line item 1201, or category 1201, excuse me. Total amount is $9,353.08.
Motion.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Last item I have is as we are getting involved with the budget cycle, we continue to pull together the county budget, but the board does have the school board budget that's been presented to you all, and just wanted some direction as to when you all want to have a public hearing regarding that, the school budget. I know the second Thursday is, of course, the Board of Supervisors regular meeting. The third Thursday in April is going to be Planning Commission meeting. So maybe looking at, was it April 23rd as possible public hearing date.
April 23rd.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that, but do you need it sooner? I mean, I know the other Thursdays are taken up, but could another day work better to help you along a little bit, or is the 23rd good for you?
I mean, the 23rd is fine,
Okay.
Unless you all wish to have it sooner. I mean, we can.
I'm good with that.
I'm fine with that also. Mr. Fisher, you good with that day?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yes.
What time? Time 6?
We usually do the public hearings at 7, but that's up to the board, however you all wish to.
We meet at what time?
7.
Go ahead and meet at 7. Okay.
Need a motion?
Yes, and I guess we do have several versions of the school board budget, and just do you want me to advertise? Which one do you want me to advertise? The one that the school board approved, or a different one that?
Well, we've normally advertised a budget that if we needed to make adjustments, it would leave us room to make adjustments. I believe the one that the school board approved, we needed to make adjustments, would allow us to do that.
That would be the higher one you could adjust down.
But it's up to the rest of the board. Weigh in on this. That was a 2.5. Do you want to advertise 2%?
I'm sorry, what was?
I'm just asking the board. I said that was, they approved the 2.5% increase. But I mean, we can adjust that tonight. What the county can do, afford to do. But you know, we, like I said, we normally do things where we have room to have some wiggle room to make adjustments.
No, that particular one did include a 2.5%, and that particular budget that they approved also had a higher rate for the health insurance, as well as, I believe.
So that version was outside of county guidance.
Correct. It is.
Make a motion, we do 2%.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Ayes got it.
All right. That's all I have.
All right. Joint Finance Committee Thursday night?
5:30.
5:30. So if anybody wants to attend, you can come set the audience.
This Thursday. What's that?
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah.
This Thursday, right?
Yeah. And I guess that's legal to do that, Luttrell? We have a committee meeting when another board member can come sit in the audience, or is that considered a meeting?
No, they could sit in the audience. They wouldn't be participating in the actual meeting itself.
Okay.
So, but they certainly could attend the meeting to see what was going on.
Okay.
What we talking about too? That board, we can attend the meeting, right?
Yeah. I'm setting the audience on that.
Okay, yeah. What's that date?
5:30. It was a Thursday.
Yeah.
26.
Okay. Well, I guess the next thing we're going to need is a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.